This story begins 1,570 years ago when the mighty Roman Empire crumbled under the relentless assault of barbarian tribes. The barbarians and the Huns swept through Roman cities like a wildfire, leaving nothing but ash and ruin in their wake. The people who once called these cities home had only one desperate thought: run. But escape wasn't easy. The Adriatic Sea blocked them on one side, the Tyrrhenian Sea on the other. They were trapped, cornered by both land and water. With nowhere left to turn, they made a decision that would change history forever. They fled toward the small islands scattered just off the coast. They survived the attacks, but what they found on those islands was a different kind of nightmare. These islands sat inside a shallow coastal lagoon, and the ground beneath their feet was nothing more than soft, waterlogged mud, so unstable, so unforgiving that even a grown man could barely stand on it without sinking. Most people would have given up right there, but these people didn't. Against every odd stacked against them, they didn't just survive on these islands, they built on them, one engineering marvel after another. Buildings, canals, bridges, and they did it all without solid ground, without natural springs, without even clean drinking water. And yet, the Venetians turned this impossible place into one of the most powerful cities the world had ever seen. But how? How do you build an entire city on ground that literally swallows you whole? How did they raise a metropolis nearly 1,000 years ago on islands where you couldn't even plant your feet? Welcome back to another video. The people who first fled to these islands from the Roman mainland had nothing, no shelter, no stable ground. The earth beneath them was more like wet clay. The moment you placed anything on it, it sank. Many voices rose up, urging everyone to turn back and return to the shore. But going back meant death. The barbarians and the Huns were nomadic tribes from northern Europe who had exploited the weakness of the Roman Empire and seized its cities. The situation on the mainland was beyond desperate. Staying on these soft, marshy islands wasn't a choice, it was the only option. Spread across the lagoon, about 3 miles from the shore, were over 150 tiny marsh islands. Every single one of them, same story, same impossible ground. But then, something happened that changed everything. One of the refugees was slowly sinking into the mud, just trying to stay on his feet, when, in a moment of sheer instinct, he drove the oar of his boat straight down into the earth. He pushed it down and down and down until several feet below the surface, it hit something completely solid. That single moment of desperation became the founding idea of the city of Venice. From the forests just a few miles away in what is today Croatia, they brought long wooden logs, tree trunks stripped and sharpened, and drove them deep into the marshy ground of the islands. Nearly 5 meters down, these logs finally bit into the firm, compressed clay beneath the soft mud and held. They weren't just driven in randomly. The logs were hammered in close together, side by side, creating a dense, stable platform beneath the earth. Once in place, the tops were cut level and flat. Wooden planks were then laid across them, spreading the load evenly across all the piles below. To raise this foundation above the waterline, they laid massive blocks of limestone on top of the planks. Above, the weight of stone. Below, 5 meters of wooden piles. Simple, brilliant, unbreakable. And here's where it gets truly remarkable. Those wooden logs, now completely submerged in water, began to swell. They expanded outward, pressing tightly against each other until there was virtually no space left between them. No room for air, no room for decay. That's why the wooden piles driven into the ground nearly 1,000 years ago are still there today, still intact, still holding up the weight of an entire city. With the foundation in place, construction began. Early Venetians built wooden homes first, but cooking fires kept breaking out, and the wooden structures burned. Brick became the new standard, and to keep the weight manageable, buildings were never allowed to rise beyond 3 stories. A special mortar, made from powdered limestone, was used between the bricks, strong enough to hold, but flexible enough to absorb subtle shifts in the ground. Interior floors and walls were built from wooden planks, reinforced from the outside with iron rods running through the structure. The idea caught on fast. Island by island, home by home, Venice grew, not outward the way normal cities do, but inward. The islands were drawing closer together, filling in, merging. What once required a boat to cross could eventually be crossed on horseback through the shallow water between islands. But the city needed more than just homes sitting next to each other. It needed to connect them. For the first 500 years, these islands had no formal connection, but as the population surged and trade exploded, the city's commercial heart, the famous Rialto district, became the beating pulse of everything, and it was cut off. The first attempt was a pontoon bridge, simple floating platforms tied together, giving people a way to cross. It got you to Rialto, sure, but because it floated, it rocked constantly, and people fell off it regularly. A permanent wooden bridge was eventually built in its place. Then, in 1310, during a violent uprising, it was set on fire. Miraculously, even after the fire, the Rialto Bridge held on for another 140 years, until 1444, when the sheer weight of too many people crossing at once finally brought it down. It was time to build something that would last. Venice's first stone bridge was designed during siding, and they used the exact same method that had built thousands of homes before it. Over 12,000 wooden piles were driven into the banks of the canal, and on top of them, they constructed a stone arch bridge weighing nearly 10,000 tons. It worked spectacularly, so well, in fact, that the same method was used to build stone bridges across Venice, and those bridges still stand today, bearing the weight of crowds of tourists, just as strong as the day they were built. Venice is a city with no roads, only canals. You don't drive, you don't ride, you float, and that turned out to be one of Venice's greatest advantages. In other cities of that era, pedestrians and horse-drawn carts fought for the same narrow path, chaotic, congested, slow. Venice had none of that. The canals were the highways. The footpaths were for walking only. And the biggest luxury of all, you could step off a boat and be at your front door in seconds. This seamless system of movement helped Venice become the wealthiest and most powerful city in all of Europe. And the reason came down to one thing: location. Look at a map. The Adriatic Sea runs like a long corridor, and at its very top sits Venice. That corridor leads straight into the Mediterranean, which connects three entire worlds: Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Even today, sea transport is the cheapest and most efficient way to move goods across the planet. Ships carrying cargo from the Middle East and Eastern Europe, heading to Western Europe, to Italy, Austria, Hungary, Germany, France, could sail all the way up the Adriatic and arrive directly at Venice's doorstep. And because those cargo ships needed something to carry on the return voyage, goods could be sent back east at bargain prices. The trade flowed, the wealth accumulated, people from surrounding regions poured into Venice, drawn by opportunity, and the population exploded. With more people came a crisis that no canal or stone bridge could solve: fresh water. Venice is surrounded by water, but it's all salt water, undrinkable. There were no natural springs, no rivers, no wells. Fresh water had to be shipped in from the mainland in barrels, loaded onto boats, and hauled across the lagoon. When the population hit 170,000, the system completely broke down. The engineers of Venice went back to work. Across the islands, there were open stretches of land where nothing had been built. Deep pits were dug into these areas, and the walls were sealed with clay and mortar, completely waterproofed. Now, here's where it gets clever. They didn't just collect rainwater directly into these pits. Inside each pit, they built a central well shaft. Around that shaft, they packed layers of sand and stone. The entire surface above was covered with tiles, flat, clean, seamless, except for small, strategically placed openings. When rain fell, it seeped through those openings into the ground, passed through the layers of sand and stone, and filtered. By the time it reached the well at the center, it was clean enough to drink. This wasn't just clever, it was nature-inspired engineering. The same way mountain spring water becomes pure as it travels through rock and mineral layers underground. Venice recreated that process on a tiny urban footprint. And to maximize the collection, pipes were fitted to the rooftops of surrounding homes, channeling every drop of rain directly into the filtration system. Soon, over 600 filter wells of various sizes were installed throughout the city. Every 10 to 12 households shared a single well. The fresh water problem solved. But there was still one more challenge staring the city in the face: sewage. In normal cities, underground sewer lines are laid beneath the streets, but Venice had no underground to speak of. For years, people simply tossed their waste into the canals. Those who didn't live directly next to a canal threw it onto the walkways, which made the city smell exactly how you'd imagine it did. In the 16th century, Venetian engineers designed drainage channels running from every home directly toward the canals. These drains were positioned above the canal's normal water level. This meant liquid waste flowed out immediately, but solid waste stayed behind in the drain. Then the tides came in. Twice a day, the sea sent a high tide surging into Venice's canals. When the water level rose above the drains, it rushed into them and pulled the solid waste out into the canal. And twice a day, as the tide went out again, it flushed that contaminated water back out to sea, replacing it with fresh salt water. The canals were cleaned, the drains were cleared, and because saltwater acts as a natural disinfectant, the system also helped keep disease at bay. That same sewage system still operates in Venice today. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The engineering that built Venice 1,000 years ago is still functioning. The foundations, the canals, the bridges, the water filtration, the tidal sewage system. A few things worth knowing before we go. Venice is slowly sinking. It's a natural geological process. The city descends about 1 to 2 millimeters per year. It is the only city in the world with no cars, no motorcycles, not a single motor vehicle on its streets. Every winter, flooding, known as acqua alta, raises the water level dramatically, and the famous walkways are swallowed by the lagoon. 6 million tourists visit Venice every single year, yet fewer than 50,000 people actually live there. A city that was born out of desperation, built on the impossible, and engineered to outlast empires. Venice isn't just a city, it's a testament to what human ingenuity looks like when survival leaves you no other choice.